Good evening, folks. It's Simon Pomeroy from Pallatrax here. So for my latest Sunday slot live feed, hopefully this is going to work. I start for every live feed with great trepidation because living in deepest, darkest Devon with no fibre, we're using radio waves apparently. Not that I understand any of it. So hopefully this is going to work. There's a few little icons popping up. Whether I get comments or not, that is my normal thing that tends to happen, and don't get any comments come up and it gets all very confusing. So hopefully there's a few people here. I can't see any comments, so I'm going to have to look at my laptop, I think, as well. Oh no, it's working. It's now working. Look at this. Hi Wayne, who I missed. Paul, how you doing? Couple of people. Colin, how you doing? How's Hayley and Willem? Hope you're well. Jack. So who we got here? Tim's just landed. How you doing, mate? Yeah, it's never good getting home after fishing, is it? Colin, evening from sunny of Suffolk. Yeah, we actually got here. Oh, Matthew Rice, he's down on Ben's pool as I speak. James, how you doing? I let a few people bob in. Great to see you here. Hopefully a few more will come in and say hello. I've got some questions. I've got some stuff sorted out here we can chat about. Any questions as well, just give me a shout as I go through. Now I'm getting comments. The pressure is off me. It's all now about sharing the love. So what am I going to do? Firstly, I'll mention this several times throughout the feed. We have our little free Pallatrax raffle. So you're in a chance to win the phenomenal Grips Chod range in 4, 6 and 8. Hi Justin. All you have to do is message yes to the Pallatrax Facebook page. So just message yes if you want to charge. Hi Rusty. Then we'll draw that about 7:45. So if you want to win those, it's a free to enter raffle. We have them every week, whether it's here or I do the other live feed every other Sunday on the team page. So yeah, there you go. So yes to the Pallatrax Messenger to be with a chance, and they are damn good. To be quite honest, hi Mike. To be quite honest, a lot of people now are using these not just as chod setups, but actually on the surface. Now, surface fishing is my bag, but of late it's all been all work and no play, even though I've got my lakes within spitting distance. Hi Neil, hope you're feeling better, matey. And I've yet to try them, but I'm getting some great feedback by people fishing them on the surface. So more than just a chod, perhaps. Right, so Justin, as you may notice, I have a bit of a beef problem in my swim this evening. In the absence of a golf course, what do you suggest? I didn't see that, Justin. I must admit, the trouble with Facebook is great in one way and awful in others because I don't always see it. So what was that, Justin? If you let us know, and a bit of a beef problem. Oh dear me. So yeah, not too sure what you've got there. So let me know. So I will go through the live feed. The live feed is as norm. Lots of things to talk about here. No doubt lots of people are out fishing. So hopefully a few of you will pick this up. If not now, they'll pick it up later. So what I'm going to talk about this evening is, firstly, I've got some questions that I've been sent in, which I was going to go through. They're quite relevant. So the first one is from Matthew Lee. He's saying, any top tips for virgin canal fishermen? Never fished a river or canal, but have been persuaded to go to a canal. Canals, about 100 cows. I could tell you a funny story about cows one day. But no, that's not a good problem. That's not a good thing to have, mate. So rather you than me. Hi, Galen, all the way from Canada. One of our stars who are helping out Instagram, TikTok. There's some great people working behind the scenes. So Galen there, and watch out for the next newsletter. It's going to have quite a big Pallatrax newsletter. It's going to have quite a big. Hi, Andy. Matthew Lee. Good evening. Going to have quite a big update on Canada because what the boys have been doing over there has been fantastic. Even Stephen, good to see you. Even Stephen, evening Stephen. Even. So yes. So Matthew's asking me any questions about canal fishing. Now, canals, to be quite honest, are absolutely amazing spots. And very much underrated. The only trouble with canals is obviously you've got traffic, you've got footfall, you've only got small tow paths and things like that. But it's like most things, it's aiming for features. You'll find marina entrances, you'll find where canal boats have, and people have been feeding geese and swans and things like that. It is literally about location, but you'll be surprised how many fish we have in our canal systems. Even some of the old canal systems, the really old canal systems I visited, like in Norfolk and places like that, full of stunning specimen rudd. But, you know, pike, perch, carp, everything lives in the canal, and very much underrated. Very cheap place to go fishing as well. It's always worth doing a bit of research, asking your local tackle shop, phoning up, you know, who's got the fishing stretch, you know, who's got the permission, or the angling club that's got the stretch and things like that, to get some top tips. But again, it's like most things, fish will gravitate to features. They do not always gravitate, you know, things people think they move away from noise. They might do to some extent, but also noise attracts them. So like, you know, when you've got canal boats, they'll sit under the shadow out of it. You know, so huge pike in some of the marinas, huge fish generally, to be fair. I can remember I fished a marina years ago with one of the folks I know off the back of his boat, and everything was big in there, massive tench and things like that, huge perch. Hi Dave, how you doing? So yeah, it's like most things, at most water, it's about watercraft, taking a bit of time, wandering around, asking questions, and then just trial and error. It's like anything, isn't it? But like any form of fishing, it is so much easier to go to fish. Don't just plonk yourself down in the first swim that looks okay. Have a good wander around. You know, if there's nobody around, you know, feed in 2 or 3 swims. When we used to match fish as kids, we would always be fishing on the opposite margins, because the opposite margins up in Derby were always got like blackberry bushes hanging over them and things like that, trees and things like that. So yeah, lily pads, it all depends. There's lots of different styles of canals, but I tell you what, lots of them are actually full of fish. And we've got a canal here that I keep on meaning to go to fish, Bew Canal, and I've done more walking and never fished it yet. So, but I've seen some really nice spots, but they're miles away from the road, you know, I'm moving down away from when people would normally gravitate to. Good evening. Sorry, Mr. Ross and Robert. How you doing? Good to see you here. So yes, hopefully that's of help, Matthew, but do always go to the fish. Do that bit of study. Do that bit of research. You know, research is such a, you know, it's part of watercraft. And if you research, ask people, you know, all those kind of things. But the next question is from Simon Wesley. Hey, Pom. So I'd like to know what I can do to help prep for a weekend session on the bank. I like to try some large boilies soaked in glugs and maybe some form of bean soaked too, but do you need these to be hardened, and if so, how? The only really reason you need to have a hardened hook bait is if you've got kind of issues with smaller fish. I hate the word nuisance fish. Smaller fish that might nibble away at your baits, cut them down. Hi, Martin. Poisson chat, when you go into France, they'll nibble. They're like piranhas. They nibble and nibble and nibble away at your baits. So a hardened hook bait is really good. The other thing is crayfish. Crayfish can be a nightmare. But outside of that, I like to actually fish a soft bait. It's more palatable. Again, it's all about the ingredients. I keep on banging, but the ingredients are in there, they're oozing out. Now, the one thing I will, and it's actually coincidental for this question, is I'm going to talk about blinging hook baits out. And with our glug, I mean, I don't know if you've ever really seen it. We did a film with Carpology recently. And, you know, our glug actually creates a very hardened hook bait, but at the same time, something that really, really is super uber boosted. And I'll go through in that more detail. But, you know, if you're going to go, you know, reference prep, I'd certainly look at particles. I think particles nowadays are very, very underrated, especially making your own, doing your own fresh particles. It's not difficult. There's loads of information on YouTube about how to cook, say, red bands, so mixed pulses, hemps are just a, you know, glorious thing. Hi, Ryan. Nice to see you here. And so, you know, the prepping of particles, you want to do a few days beforehand. I actually like to do a couple of days beforehand and take it fresh. So, you know, I'm literally boiling up. I'm a big fan of pigeon conditioner, which is lots of mixed particles in aniseed. You know, what I tend to do, because I've got the big boilers here for the boilies, I use those so I can do a lot of bait, and it's not expensive. and it really gets fish grubbing around. So particles is a big plus. So hopefully that helps. The only other thing I do, and if you've seen it more so, we've talked about it on Team Pallatrax, is about how we create the sick mix. So 2 or 3 days before we go fishing, if we're fishing boiled bait, so let's just call it jungle. So my milk protein, tiger nut and peanut and clove bait. So I would soak, let's just say a kilo of that 3 or 4 days beforehand, depending on the temperature and various things like that. And what you then do is you get the membrane breaking down, and everything that is inside that shell of the membrane is then oozing out. So you've already got it working before you turn up on the swim, and then you can put out these freebies and they're literally flaring out. What have I missed here? I'm off to Dream Lake 2 next weekend for a week. Got my stone, snails and maggot method glue. Go get them, Rusty. It's going to be fun, mate. Good luck. Safe travels. It is super sticky. It is super sticky. I've got some on my fingers now. So hopefully, Simon, that helps. But it is in the prep. You'll see me talk a lot about it's all in the prep. It's all in the ingredients. And all these things, you know, they take time. And many a time we can be too crash bang wallop, you know, and take time. I was showing somebody yesterday at the lakes here how to make method mix. And I was saying, take your time. You know, they were so keen to get their rods out. And it's like, look, you're going to spend loads of time with those rods sitting out there. Get all this stuff prepped, in position, everything going and working. And then you're on top of the game. So it is in, you know, that prep is really cool. Nick Wilson. Tips for making my own custom baits using Pallatrax ingredients from the base mix up. I mean, I've created my base mixes are what I call biomass food source. All right. So and there is a film coming out very shortly. There's a few bits of editing that's got to be done on that, and that'll be coming out via Carpology as well. So if you create a base mix that is a wholesome food source, not just for the fish, but for the invertebrated life, so, you know, things that live in the substrate, hence why I don't want lead in the substrate, you know, you've got this base, all right, that's really palatable. That's going to be a good food source. They recognise it as food. They're attracted to it for all the right reasons. It's not just a synthetic base of bulking agents and synthetic. It's actually really food. So that's the key thing for me with my base mixes, and they're all, you know, they're all, you know, there's variables there with the different base mixes. And then flavors definitely work. You know, they've all got like kind of levels within a fishery. My situation within a fishery is somewhat different than an angling. So as long as it's good for the fish, the water quality, the general biomass, I'm really happy. And the fact is, if it is that, it's going to make a better bait, you know, just by coincidence or design, however you look at it. Sorry, who's off to Lequy in 2 weeks? Sorry, I missed that. Oh, Steve Baines. Yeah, have fun, mate. Yeah, multi-worm is absolutely annihilating it over there. And obviously, you know, grips, hooks and stones and gamma line, they're using a lot of our gear over there. And I think I've always said the proof is in the pudding. You know, if you're catching lots of fish, we've got to be doing something right. And if these fish are getting... Goes back to this base mix, I suppose. You know, Lequy is a fantastic fishery, got some huge fish in it, and these fish are on multi-worm. Doesn't even smell very nice to the human nose, but they're on it. They're on it because it's food. So who's that? Stephen, good to see you, mate. Yeah, no, it's just an open chat about all things fishing, and obviously I've got my allegiance to Pallatrax, but I'm going to go into that a little bit more in a minute. Who's that? Who's been to an air? Oh, Simon's been to an air. I don't know, Simon, if you just saw that. I did ask your question about some prep in there. So Nick Wilson, going back to your question, you know, we do all the flavours. Everything we do is animal feed registered, so you're safe in the knowledge that it's good. But flavours, different levels. I think making your own bait, what I love about it, and I still like it even though I make it, I suppose, in a commercial way as well. Well, it is on a commercial way as well, is... It's quite exciting when you develop your own baits and you muck around and you experiment. But what you need to make sure is that you're using the right ingredients, you know, and don't. Who's that? Sorry. Is it worth putting some of the glug in the method? Hang on a second. Let me get back for the... Rusty is saying, sorry, I'm all over the place as always. Is it worth putting... What I would do, I tell you, something not a lot of people do, is if you're feeling a little bit generous, say this one is Crave, you can get... I know I can be slightly indulgent because I can go and steal it off the shelf kind of thing. But you can get some baits, like a kilo of bait, and pour a whole load of glug on it and mix it all around. And we've had some great results fishing over the top of that, because you've just got this huge aura of we call it cooking the bacon. So it's getting it all out there. So do have a think of that. I wouldn't put it in a method mix. I think you're going to make a right mess. I know for a fact you'll get a right mess. Sorry, where was it going? And you add the flavours, and then do you add any sweetener? I mean, again, Nick, it's very much down to you. Oh, where have I gone? I've pressed the button again. This is me. I'm useless at this stuff. Again, as long as you're using safe ingredients, it's very much a case of just experimenting. You can add sweetener. You can add, you know, natural sugars. I like using natural sugars in my bait. Everything is attracted to nature. It's a palatant. There's lots of things going on with sugars and sweeteners. You don't want. I'm talking to good mate Tim Hodges about this only last week. That do you want a fish to pick something up? And again, we're having to make assumptions that it's actually not. You know, got not a nice taste. It's bitter, so it tries to get rid of it sooner. Or because you've got chemoreceptors on the side of there, they can brush against it, and if it doesn't taste nice to them, or they don't recognise it, you know, they could potentially spook off. So it's really, as long as you've got good base, I would always say use fresh eggs. Fresh eggs. There's a narrative out there about my belief about not using fresh eggs. My belief is fresh eggs are really expensive, but I think they're the best binder, and they give a natural protein. There's nothing else that you can say about eggs other than everything eats them, because they're just full of protein. So, you know, it's not just humans, but everything in nature. If you see how carp will munch through bream eggs and things like that, it's just full of food. So it is really. There's loads of stuff written out there. All I would about making baits, Nick, all I would say is just make sure that you've got good ingredients. Don't bulk it out with cheap ingredients. Don't use synthetics if you can. That's why we don't use synthetics, because as I say, it's not what we want to see in the best quality bait. And the beauty is you can then design it yourselves. You can make your own shapes, colours, flavours, sizes, do all kinds of things. It's really good fun making your bait, and it's not uber expensive. It's not uber expensive. Once you get set up, you know, you can get a cheap rolling table. Gardner, for example, they do rolling tables. You can get a little small air gun to push out your sausages, and it's something that is great fun. That's all I can say. Now, I've always loved the fact that, you know, I'm catching on something I've made, and I actually now get much more of a buzz seeing other people. Like when I see all these fish, say, for example, at the Quay, getting caught on multi-worm, we've made it here from scratch. It gives you like a great sense of satisfaction. So hopefully that helps. Where we go. My bivvy, Stephen's moaning about his bivvy from the Quay, still stinking of multi-worm. Ah, wicked smell, wicked bait. I use the soaps. We're going to talk about that. Hi, Anton. Hope you're well, mate. Where we going? Where we going? Eggshell 2. No, I don't put eggshell in. I think that was a lazy thing that was developed over the years, you know, and that, or the assumption that carp would crunch down on it and it would be like a snail and all these things. You know, I'm looking just to create a food, and not that I'm trying to humanise this, but do I have egg when in an omelette, for example? No, I don't. You know, it's got no real value. Some people say about the calcium in it and things like that, but to me, I want that to be a food package. And what I will say as well is, if you look where I look to, and I've been doing some stuff today with my friend who's I get my fish off, talking about new pellets on the market and things like that. You don't see these kind of things going. If they were any good, why aren't they being used in the fish farming market? Question, I would say, but something for me to steer away from. Where we going? Where we going? Am I up to date? I think I'm up to date. Where am I now? Martin King, casting with line clipped up. Never fished like that myself for fear it getting cracked off. Sometimes my actions can be a bit slow, and any tips would be grateful. All I would say, when you whatever reel, and I use Shimano's, you know, they've got a line clip which is has never caused me any problems. I use Gamma line all the time. I believe in that fishing line massively. I have seen issues with cheap line clips. And so people are putting their lines in, and as a caster now is hitting that clip, it's quite sharp and they're getting problems. But I think if you've got a good quality line clip, I have never ever had in all the time I can think of, and I'm getting on now, an issue with a combination of the line I'm fishing, which is a quality line with Gamma, and a quality reel like a Shimano that has got line clips that used it. But I would always just check your line clip. If it is one of those ones that's rough and causing you problems, you know, just be aware of that. But you shouldn't really nowadays, you know, modern angling, you shouldn't really have a problem, Martin. This is a good one, and I do apologise that I'm not going to probably be able to say this surname. Dean1, it could be 1UK or it could be Honour Uke or something like that, so I do apologise. But it's actually a really good question. That's great. Other people are you know, pop in and give advice as well. Please do. You know, it's not just about me, the live feed. So thanks, Colin, for doing that. What's more important, rigs or bait choice? Oh, dear me. It's a bit like the chicken before the egg, isn't it? You won't catch a fish unless it mouths your bait, and you won't catch that fish unless your rig's any good. So you know, the key is, and the quandary we will always have is, like, I fish on one rig. You know, I mean, this is the rig I fish on. Now, I've got old, I've got fed up with going around the houses, so I fish a Steam Link rig. That's got a bit of shot on there for a pop-up, and I take that off if I'm fishing on a bottom bait. So in 99% of the situations, I will just fish that Steam Link, what we call the LQ rig. It works. It's caught me thousands of fish. So many other people are using it now successfully. So when I go fishing, I don't really care about my rig like I used to. I used to get all stressed out and thinking, oh, perhaps I should do a Flip D wingly wongly one or something like that. When the hair rig and the dynamics of the hair rig is pretty much simple, I think it's become very, very complicated, very confusing, and therefore very inconsistent. I'm all about consistency. So if I fish in that rig, it's 5.5 inches long, it's everything's set. The piece that's been stripped off is about 1 centimetre. I've got my serious shrink kicker there, which really gives an aggressive turn, and I catch fish after fish. No doubt fish will do me on this, because I don't think you'll ever get a rig that hooks every fish. What's this? Just on Gamma personally, it's been fantastic for me. I've never had any issues. You're hearing lots of it snapping and twisting. No, we sell. Who's that from? Sorry, we're just going off on Gamma. Andy Pascoe. No, I mean, you know, it's scientifically proven. I'll be the first to confess, about a year ago, we had a small bad batch of Ultra Clear, which when I sent it back to Gamma, because we had a few snapping, they reckon it had jumped the irradiation process. But scientifically, it's copolymer. Copolymer is what copolymer is. It goes from Japan to America, where it's irradiated. And I've been fishing on it 15 years, and I think it's it's amazing. And you get the odd person, perhaps, you know, bad workman blaming tools and things like that. But, you know, I swear by the stuff. And I'm not saying that if there was a better line come on the market, I don't think there will, because this all comes from the tennis string industry. I'll be the first to say now there is a better line on the market. But currently you cannot beat Gamma. And I suppose you're always going to get the odd person that will blame. But I say we did a year ago have an issue. And we went back to Gamma. They replaced spools. We replaced, I think it was 12 customers had a problem. And I don't hide. I'm not, you know, I don't hide from any of this stuff. I'm very transparent. And but all I can say is we sell absolutely shed loads, and all we do is get great reviews. There might be the odd sourpuss out there. You always get that on. Look at all the stuff that's been on Facebook of late from various products that companies are bringing out. So you get the odd person, you get the odd hater. We see that all the time. But all I will say, Andy, I think it's amazing, and I wouldn't put my name to it if I didn't, and that's for sure. So, and I'm sure lots of people on here, I'm seeing lots of names on here who are saying exactly the same thing. And it's just hi Robert, how you doing? Great to see you out fishing all the time, you lucky man. So yeah, hopefully that you know, all I can say is we don't get anything complaints. We get the odd one complaint in a blue moon, and we had one thing that I did identify as an issue. We replaced all the spools, and that's it. So the irony is these people who exist out there and who I would class as haters, and I really don't care about them anymore. I used to get quite upset because I would take it personally. It's all about the evidence, so whether it's the ingredients, so ingredients in anything. And the fact is, it is high quality copolymer. It's taken from Japan to America, and fluorocarbons, where it goes through an independent ratified process, and it becomes what it is, a radiated copolymer, and there's nothing else in the world like it because it's a patented kind of really high-tech thing. So you end up with what you end up with. So I would suggest people who are saying that they've had an issue with it, if it from being from that batch, I can understand. But outside of that, we've only ever well, look at this people poshing it now, and it's I just find it brilliant. All you got to do is look at the fish that are caught at Lequy and things like that. But so yeah, so I'm not trying to, you know, one thing about me, you'll never catch me in a lie. I honestly think it's absolutely amazing, and I've personally caught thousands of fish on it. So I'll tell you another thing. Here you go. This is Tinny's just overheard me, and we're not being overly protective. You look at all of the fish at Top Cats. Now that amazing fishery out in Thailand, that will be going a team fishing there next year. Every rod is loaded with gamma. Every fish out there is caught on gamma, and those are monsters. So anybody saying it, you know, I think you have to really wonder if there's a bit of an agenda going on. That's all I will say. So there we go. Right, where are we now? Matthew Rice fishing with it now. Yeah, Matt's out there now. Colin's saying, love the LQ. Has up my catch point wrestling. Has not just seen increase in bites, but also getting. Yeah, you know, this rig. It's always difficult, and when I'm going further in this conversation, I always, and don't think I'm overindulgent here, but I always, but possibly I am, everything I fish on, I've designed for my own fishing. That's it. I was lucky to be parachuting into this industry, with the good, the bad, and the ugly. And so over the years, through my own fishery management, through my own owning tackle shops, my own angling, I've just been seeking edges to do it perfectly right. And I cannot beat that rig. There is a wry smile in my, you know, because again, it's all about consistency. It's all about research. Steam Link is, you know, the only coated Dyneema of its type in the world. It does what it does. And without a shadow of a doubt, my catch rate and my consistency to catch rate has been phenomenal. You know, and other people who go onto the LQ rig and don't get drawn away and sucked away with this narrative out there that you don't change rigs. If you've got a great rig like that, I'm just changing baits. I'm not going to change that rig because that rig has caught so many fish. And like Colin, I'm with you, Colin, not because I'm selling this stuff. I've designed this for my own fishing with my OCD and my love to get it all right and catch more fish. I mean, I wouldn't be fishing on that if I didn't think it was the best. That's just where I am. And that's not an arrogance. You don't have to. My way is I've only ever drawn people to my conclusions. People, you can poo-poo them out the water. You can say, you know, stones are rubbish or gamma's junk or whatever. But all I know is it's not. And it's been done for all the right reasons. Fish safety first. And then the ability to catch fish time and time again, and I don't change like I've said 1,000 times. I'm not, you know, I don't change you know, my rigs and all this kind of stuff that you see. I'm like the match angler. I've got rigs that I can go to that work. I'm changing my baits. I'm changing my locations. I see a lot of people in my fishery days historically where they would come to my lakes, but they only had one bait, so they muck around all the time changing their different rigs, thinking, but what happens, I'm not saying their bait was rubbish, but what happens on that day if it wasn't particularly good? The fish didn't want it. That's what happens with lures, with flies, with everything else. So if you don't have change-up baits, you really, really do have a problem. But if you've got, so when I go fishing, I don't even think about my rig. That is the honest truth, unless there's a reason for me, unless I'm zig rig fishing, or I'm, you know, if I'm fishing in weed, if I'm fishing over silt, if I'm fishing over gravel, I'm fishing just over junk, you know, all bits of trees. That's the rig we fish. Look at the guys out in Canada. They all fish that rig and fish after fish in some really difficult conditions. So it's about the bait for me. So I'm with you, Colin, for all the right reasons. Who have I missed here? I've got Robert, so bear with me, folks. Is there a live raffle? Yes, live raffle. Somebody just reminded me. So as we always do on my Sunday slots, if you would like a chance to win the chod hooks, which a lot of people are using on the surface, and it is sunny out there as well, 4, 6 and 8, just send yes to the Pallatrax Facebook page. Yes to the Pallatrax Facebook page or Messenger, and shortly we will have Tinny will draw it at random out of the people that have said yes. So there we go. Where are we? Right, so we got to that one. How do you enter the live raffle? Hopefully you've just got that. I fish with 0.36. We're talking about gamma again. Yeah, you know, like I don't want to go on it, but there is obviously a few people that are sour out there on one thing or another. I don't get involved with it. We know where we are. We're very comfortable with our position. Gamma is just on another planet. I guess other companies will have dissatisfied people for one reason or another. What we do know is it's black and white. You know, it's a high quality copolymer which has been irradiated, which we bring in. You know, and obviously when something gets mass produced, perhaps every now and again you'll get an issue. But we certainly haven't. We sell tons of it, to be fair. But there we go. Matthew Lee, I'm sure Pom use the LQ like the Greeks or Italians use worry bees. Just chopping in. Sue, how you doing? We're out for dinner. Sue's on holiday. She's our marketing director. Take care, Sue. Enjoy and best to all your family. I only fish with, where are we? With stones. There's Robert, yeah. Again, Matthew Wright, LQ rig and stones. You can have one without the other. Real game changer. I do agree. Hi, Dan. Hope you're well, mate. Simon, Wesley, you float fish. Do you change rods or stick with your standard carp rod? No, I when I'm float fishing, you know, if I'm float fishing for carp, I like, the only reason I fish with 2.75s for carp, which is my hand-built Harrisons, is because I always hoof out a big lump of method. I wouldn't normally fish on that. I'll be fishing generally on 2 1/4s because I love fishing lighter. I know that in the majority of the situations they're going to be more than enough for me to play that fish out. But because I'm not doing that, and when I'm fishing on my lakes here, I've got 1.75s and they're barbel rods. And that's what I tend to float fish if I'm fishing for carp. Obviously, I'm fishing for smaller species, you know, bream, tench, whatever, perch. I will be fishing. Like I say, I'm very much like the match angler. I match my gear to the situation and the species. So I wouldn't put my 2.75s out to float fish for carp. You know, it's just. I'm using a higher test curve in the main and when we're fishing on the deck, purely because I'm literally hooping out, you know, a couple of ounce stone and then 4 ounces of method mix, and I need a bit of grunt behind it. Where else are we? What's the ideal fish? What is the ideal situation to fish the LQ rig, Simon? You said unless I'm faced with silt, oil or gravel, I might look to change. The only, like I say, zig rigs. You know, if I'm fishing a zig rig, or to be quite honest, I'm not stupid from a watercraft point of view. If you were sitting next to me fishing a variation, because, you know, at the end of the day, the hair rig is the hair rig. There's somewhat trying to reinvent the wheel, aren't we? All of these different things, different bits of metal and, you know, yada, yada, yada. But if I've never gone fishing and somebody's had a rig that's outperformed me, and that's not being big-headed, that's just a fact. And, you know, it's like Sue who just popped up there. I can remember her fishing on Ben's pool last year, you know, 40 fish in there, and she had 25 fish out on the LQ rig in 24 hours. You know, we know it's a consistency, and I find it very hard to articulate sometimes that I fish like the match angler, and I would urge people to fish like the match angler, because then you will understand that it's all about consistency. The top match anglers catch week in, week out. They're only good because the fact is, hi Darren, the fact is that they are catching and out fishing everybody around them. And then you look at them and you study them, you talk to them, you see how they're doing it. And everything is done consistently. Their preparation of bait, their rigs, their presentation. That's really where I've learned from. And I think we can all, you know, we can all take a leaf out of the book of a top match angler, because they have to be good. Catching one big fish, I'm afraid, does not mean you're at the top of the game. If you're catching every time you go out, you're catching, that is the sign of a good angler. You know, an efficient angler, a consistent angler, and they're doing it. If you talk to them, if you meet them, and I'm the first to drag any information out of anybody. Why are you catching more? And that's where you learn. If you go off on a tangent, you can get very confused. And the modern fishing, to me, as an old grumpy old man, has become very, very, very confusing. Somebody trying to, I had a gentleman here yesterday, he was new to carp fishing, and I was showing him, and some of the stuff he was learning off the internet was pretty sad stuff, and pretty dangerous, to be quite honest. Some of the rigs and things that were being floated around, I certainly wouldn't want them on my fishery. Some of the baits that are out there I definitely won't have on my fishery, because they're not good, they're not food and things like that. So yeah, there's no time that I don't fish the LQ rig. You know, people say, well, if it's really thick silt, and it's like, well, unless you go down on the deck, yeah. And I have done that. I have dived and things, especially over in Holland. But I tell you a great, Galen is on here at the moment, or he was on here. He was one of the guys from Canada. He does all this underwater footage. He fishes the LQ rig, and he's fishing it over all different bottoms, big rocks. I fished it, like I say, last time I went to Horseshoe, I had some lovely carp up there, fishing it into the weed, again with my method ball and things like that. So it's just my go-to. I'm not saying other rigs don't work, but I've yet to find one that works so consistently for a bottom bait or a pop-up. I've caught loads of fish on fluorocarbon rigs because you get that natural kick, but they're pretty rubbish for pop-ups and presentation like that. So I just want that one rig that I can confidently fish on, and that doesn't even cross my mind when I'm fishing. Doesn't even cross my mind when I'm fishing. What does cross, if I'm not getting fish and there's fish in the swim, I don't for a minute think it's that rig. Though I do obviously acknowledge I will get done every now and again. What I do acknowledge is that, like the fly angler, the match angler, all these other anglers, change your bait, change your location. Don't change the rig. Not if that rig has caught you foul. What are you trying to do? All you're doing is moving away from the path of consistency. For me, that's for me. Stones over fish. Colin's saying, so yeah, the thing is with stones, people sometimes get confused. They think it's the same as a lead. No, the one thing a stone can do is the same as a lead, so it can cast and hold bottom. But we fish flat stones over silt. The density is different, so they'll sit on top of silt, sit on top of weed. It's a very individual tactic. You can flavour them, and obviously the main thing for us is it's unobtrusive. It's part of the fish's natural background, so why not use it? And obviously a great bonus is it's non-toxic, whereas lead is obviously very toxic. So I've missed a few here. So float fishing using peglet raglan knife. Sorry, Robert. Sorry, folks. Somebody one day help me. I press my screen, right? I've got all these comments, and as soon as I press it, it always goes back to the top, and I can't see the question. Is it just me? What size is this? So we've done that one. Andy Pascoe saying, what do you say? Something about fishing on a 90 gram. Yeah, exactly, Andy. Great fun light kit. Love it. Both reels are spooled up with gamma and honest opinion best line. Yeah, I mean, I'm with you, Michael. Not because I'm selling it. You know, the story is I met this brand over in a show in America years ago, and it blew my head off. And 2 weeks later, I got on a plane, flew out to Pittsburgh to visit them in their factory. Excuse me, a little bit of a slurp. And the irony is, it's not like going into the tackle trade. I actually met a guy. His name was Ron Carr. He's just retired. Really nice guy. And he is a nuclear physicist in charge of the irradiation, because irradiation is about gamma rays. And you can't argue with science. So, I'm all with it. And I'm not trying to sell it. All I'm saying is I've located what I honestly believe to be the best fishing line going. And the science stacks up. And that's why I use it. Like I say, if Company X brought out a better line than Gamma, I'd be the first to have to acknowledge it. But I don't think it's going to happen, because the irradiation process comes all from within the tennis string industry. And that's a massive industry compared to fishing. And they pour, zillions of pounds in dollars or whatever into it to produce this quality, this high standard. Very much different than the fishing line industry. Darren, what's Darren? Hi, Darren. Tom Ben. Hi, guys. Thought on sharpening hooks. Do you sharpen grips or replace? This is a really good question, Tom, and I'll go into it. I've got all this stuff here, and I haven't, but it's great. I love kind of answering questions, especially if it's, you know, you can pick some gems out there, and it hopes that you. Right, hook manufacturing. It's all about the ingredients yet again. So you can get different manufacturers using different standard and grades of wire. I source from the top Japanese manufacturer. Okay, so I know I'm buying the top wire. Now, if you look at a grips, you'll notice that the head is like an arrow. So we're using a different technology, not just with the grips, but actually to shape. I don't know if you can, there's a bigger hook here. I don't know if you're going to be able to see that. Probably not. But if you look here, I can. If you look on the front, you'll see it's a flattened. So it's almost like an arrow head, if that makes sense. Now that point is very expensive to actually have manufactured, and that's again anglers, and I certainly didn't know it. I didn't realise there was different process to manufacturing a hook point. People come out and say like, "Oh, they're chemically sharpened." All hooks are chemically sharpened, so when you have these different hook points, you pay more money, and I want to only fish with the best. I don't believe you should reel in a hook with a fish and the hook point's turned over. I don't think that's good from like a carbon footprint point of view if you're having to change hooks all the time. I don't think, again, me folks, don't have to take any notice from me whatsoever. This is where I am. I don't think you should have to take a hook out of the packet and then sharpen it. To me, that's a bit like getting in my car every day to go to work and I have to pump the tyres up. No. It should come to you in a condition that is good. And the thing is, by having developed, using the development of like cutting point technology and things like that, you end up with a durable hook point. You'll catch fish after fish after fish. Would I then, give it of course, it's very sharp, very strong, but obviously a point can potentially, you hit into a rock or something like that, can potentially turn over. Now, all I know is by having it so durable, it happens very infrequently with grips. But would I then sharpen? No, I wouldn't. And the reason is I'm not an expert hook sharpener. As soon as I start taking little bits off, am I weakening it? I know hook points out there that when they sharpen them, they then tell you to put a bit of Vaseline on top of it to stop it rusting. Do I want the potential of that hook point to be substandard? Because that hook point, when we're hair fishing, having it super sharp is a must. Absolutely. And every time I cast out and reel in, I always check my hook points. Like I always check like 2 meters of line to make sure there's no little cuts and things like that. But the hook point is really, really, so important when we're doing what we're doing when we're hair rigging and we're asking a fish to hook itself. So I want the best hook point possible, and that's where grips is. They're massively safe. They won awards for being, super safe. Durable hook points, so super sharp, stay sharp for multiple captures. One of the guys, Vince from Canada, he contacted me recently and said, I'm retiring. I've had 27 hooks on this fish. 27 fish on this hook. I'm going to retire it, just in case. But another lad, Matt, came up to me up at Horseshoe, and he'd been fishing with one rig, and he had 60 fish on the same rig. That's why I think that's cool, isn't it? I think if we can produce that kind of quality, it's great for everybody. I'm not into hook sharpening myself. Other people may well do it, but all I would do is caution that should it have gone over in the first instance, and by taking off slithers of small bits of metal, are you damaging it? Are you weakening it? I'll put if it happens, and it only very infrequently happens to me, I would just tie a new rig up. To be fair, I'd take all the bits off, cut the rig up so that it's in small pieces. Take the swivel off, and then I just rebuild a new rig. So hopefully that helps, Tom. Missed loads of questions now. When the float fishing, oh dear me. Grips. Anton's saying he doesn't sharp. I thought someone might ask me that, Michael Taylor, about the new twig thing from OMC. I don't really comment on other companies. I don't get involved. What I will say is I've been disgusted about the amount of hate that's been heaped on individuals and a company without actually a product being put on the market. I don't think that's personally nice, and that's one of the things I don't like about Facebook or social media. People can be nasty keyboard warriors. Would I allow that product here? No. I mean, I won't allow it, and that's because somebody sent me a film earlier. I personally wouldn't fish on it because I've been doing this a long time, and it's not that tactical approach or that rig has been tried, tested. Many have classed it as unethical. Others have classed it as, not actually making any difference. I don't know. I haven't tested the product, but what I don't like personally is the fact is if you have a break off and a fish is towing that around my fishery, could it potential tether that fish up? Yes, it can. The arms don't break. We've seen that on film footage sent to me recently. But like I say, it's each their own. If people want to fish on it, it's down to them. To me, as an angler, and I put on the team page earlier about being unobtrusive, like people who know me, I fish that, and I fish that. So a stone and a rig and my main line, and a little buffer bead. That's it. I go as... If you then look at all of the parts that make up that product, it's so obtrusive to me. As a purist angler, I honestly believe there'll be times when fish just move away, likely because it's so obvious, so obtrusive. But like I say, personally, I wouldn't use it because it's not the way I fish, and as a fishery owner, it's not for my fishery. Okay, and that's just a personal decision. Anybody that says, "Oh, you're doing that," no. I'm a sensible guy. I don't knock the trade. I knock dumping a lead. I knock anything that's fish safe. Not fish safe. So some of the baits out there, but I'm not here to knock other people. Good luck with what they're doing. But it's not for this fishery, and I can only talk about my fishery and my reasons. Is without a shadow of doubt, fish safety is always going to be my priority. Hence why the rules are what they are. So hopefully that makes sense. But I have been pretty appalled by some of the nastiness out there, I have to admit. I think people are talking. What people's thoughts? Right, hang on a second. Oh, sorry, Rusty's saying about the twig there. I'll leave that until I've got my hands on holding. Yeah, like I say, I think people should hold off judgment. But for me, the fact is, like I say, if the line snaps above it, it's stuck to the rig, and therefore the fish will be trailing. Fortunately, I'm gripped, so they would get rid of it, but I can't risk it. I just can't risk it. The fish. They're my babies for one. I do everything to look after them and their health, and I just can't take that risk. If somebody breaks off and it's just a rig, I'm convinced that fish will eject the grips because that's how the grips are designed to do. But like I say, that's just me, and I'm not getting involved with all the bum fight out there. Where else are we? People are talking about. How long to soak a stones in glug to give it flavour? That's from Matthew Lee. What I would suggest, Matthew, is use products, and I'm not even got round to talking about blinged hook baits. Use products like this, which has got a water content, and then you can just dump them in there and just leave them in there. The other thing is that I actually do, because we do the neat flavours, so neat jungle or neat crave, I mix those with water because you don't want to put it on an oil. This product here, my booster, all right, that's water-based for a reason, not because water's cheaper or any whatever. It's the fact is it's porous. Things are porous. So like a bait, you want water. If it's oil, it'll sit on the outside of something. If it's water, it will ingress. So you can, if you talk to, say, Sue, for example, Sue always keeps her little pots of stones, and they're all glugging away. And when she takes them out, and it so quickly stains, but you need to be on a water-based carrier to really take full advantage, because if not, it just sit on the outside, and you want that stone to come in, and really pop, because you're just oozing off that attraction. So hopefully that helps. I've ordered a pack myself, so people, Galen's films are excellent. Yes, they are, Anton. I love them. Think you may benefit having a second screen for the comment pom. Yeah, you're probably right. Simon, the internet. Oh, leave me alone. I tell you what, I won't show the back of my hair because Tinny shaved my head last night and we forgot to put the guard on, and so I've got a big stripe up the back of my head. Fashion statement. Main fellow, where are we going? Where are we going? I do apologise if I'm missing some questions here. I hate it. People talking nice things about grips. Yeah, Paul, I know. Sorry, who was that? No, sorry, Peter. Yeah, no, great. Now you're having great results. I want to. Tom is talking nice things. Yeah, I think people are talking nice things. Put the leprechaun. So, oh, I tell you what, you know, I know this isn't the team page, but on the team page I put a post when I first started doing this, and I pressed the button, I turned into a leprechaun. So yes, there you go. Look at my wonderful wife. She's put up there. If you want to win the live feed raffle of the Chod Ranch, do that. Can't show. I don't think I might be able to, but I won't be able to see it. So, can you see that, Tenny? Can you see my hair? Could you see it? Did it see? It's not a good look, is it? Dear me. I'm sure she did it on purpose. So anyhow, I've really drifted all over the place. Obviously, by the laughing symbols, you obviously see that it's, yes, fashion statement or what. It was really funny. I was sitting there and I used a beard trimmer and then I was doing a bit of trimming around here, and I took the guard off and I said, "Oh, Tins, can you please just look at you lot? At least I made some people happy." And next thing she went, "Oh!" And it was, yeah, so there you go. There you go. So D, hopefully I asked your question because it was ages ago. Important rigs or bait? They're both equally important, but it's like the chicken before the egg. Yeah, she says that. I bet she did it on purpose. You won't catch a fish unless it picks up your bait. So therefore is the bait more important, but you won't catch that fish unless your rig works. So they kind of work together, and that's where I am. The difference is, as I say, I use that one rig because it's so efficient, so consistent, so anti-tangle. It covers a lot of the other variables that I'm seeking. It's always fishing. If a fish picks it up, spits it out, because you know the law of luck, so to speak. We've seen this with Galen's footage. Another fish will move in, pick it up, and it's hooked. So that's very important for me to reset as well. So. Yeah, I'm glad you're all having loads of things. So, what time is it? It's whizzed by. An hour's nearly whizzed by. So, right, I'm going to turn around this really quickly, and hopefully this will really give you a bit of things. Oh, just before I go, or before I move on, shall I say, these little babies, they're out now for field testing. Where's the other? So, it's 3 rigs for catfish and a new catfish 22mm multi-worm, wild crab and concentrated shrimp extract. They're out for field testing on the for the catfish. Now the thing is, straight away people are catching carp on them, so could be a damn good carp bait, but made on the multi-worm base, so I'm a massive believer. But I'll keep folks updated how that goes on. But these are the rigs using the 60-pound steam link, 80-pound swivel, obviously the shrink, and 3 different hook patterns. You've got the straight point there in size 2. You've got the size 1. Where am I going? The size 1, the eagle wave, and then you've got with the kicker. You've got the size 2 wide gate, my favourite. So yes, we'll see how the catfish anglers fare. Proper testing. I'm relatively confident. How do you? It's Simon Wesley. You watch your space, Dan. Watch your space. I think it's going to be quite an interesting one. But by default, I mean I sent it over to LaQuee. God, it just absolutely hustles. It really does. That's the wild crab, really pushing out with a bit of N-butyric acid. That really kind of again, and it's all about. I don't know if that's going to come around the right way. Will it come out better? No, you can't see anything there. That is, if you can take notice of this, folks, the olfactory system. And it's in just about every creature as far as I can research. We have one and things like that. But how do fish find our bait? So that is tonight's theme. I can't help it, Dan. You love it being teased. So Yes, David. Like I say, I sent it out to Laqui and straight away they're catching on it out there. I mean, it's the same base mix as multi-worm, and then I say it's infused with those flavours and attractors. It's in a bigger shape, obviously at 22 mils, but it's really, really a powerful flavour. And this is really where I'm going to be talking to you about what I was going to be talking to you about an hour ago. So if you're happy, there's still loads of people here, I'll carry on. What else am I going to do on a Sunday evening? Now choir practice has been cancelled. So, and you've now seen my haircut. So, how does a fish find your bait? Now, when I first started off fishing years and years and years ago, and it is years and years and years ago, excuse me, it's getting cold, this. I would have been better with a rum and a Coke. Perhaps she'll get that message. She's in the office working hard. Exactly. Look at there, Matthew took the words straight out of my mouth. So I always assumed that fish found my bait because they could see it. As naive as I have been and was and things like that. And to a certain extent that is true, especially in clear water conditions, especially when you're talking predatory fish, you know, like a spinner or even a fly and things like that. When I got involved in carp fishing, so we're talking quarter of a century ago, God, I'm old. I'm fishing in lakes, they're really, 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 who's that? Who's going cracking? Yeah. Lee Jackson. Lee, there's something coming in the post to you, I haven't forgotten you. You stay safe, mate. Yeah, continue to run before the haircut. Yeah, I should have had one after it, that's for certain, Aaron. So my first carp lakes, when I first really got into carp fishing, it was like, well, these fish can't see it because it's like muddy, you know. And then I started researching fish, like I need to get into fish farming and things like that. And the thing is how fish find, putting vision aside, which on clear water conditions, is like, how do fish see at night, for example? Well, they can't. They haven't got little torches on their fins as they go around or anything like that. And they find things like we smell on the air. I call it like cooking bacon. And I've said these things. Yeah, no worries, Lee. You stay safe, mate. If you think about it, so you're sitting in the lounge, you're watching TV, and there's a plate of bacon you don't know sitting out on the who's that? Yeah, leeches. Yeah, but I don't know about that, to be honest. Yeah, terrible. Yeah, Kevin Taylor. I'll say again, one of our friends passed away. Kevin Taylor. It was devastating. I spoke to Kevin most weeks, and he passed away recently. So yes, big RIP there. RIP there. So anyhow, gin clear waters. I think it's more visual, pea soup, but both work together. Well, all I'm saying, Colin, is study the olfactory system. Instead of watching some of this stuff on YouTube, I would say have a look on Wikipedia, put in olfactory for fish, olfactory system, and you will very, very realise where I come from and why it's all about the biology of fish. Fish can't see round corners. Nobody can see round corners. They can't see a bait that's hidden. They can't see, it's a very limiting factor, their eyesight. And I say certainly at night they can't see nothing. So how do they find your bait? And they find it predominantly using receptors. Hi Les, hope you're well, mate. And they find this system is, like I say, it's like smelling on the air for humans. So going back to what I was saying, you're sat there, then suddenly somebody starts cooking that bacon. You didn't know that bacon was out there in the lounge, in the kitchen, but suddenly and suddenly you're aware of it. And that is really where, when I used to talk to him for hours, he had so much to say about you, always good. Yeah, in all honesty, Adam, I got a bit of a catch to my throat here because he was a dear friend and very supportive of everything I did and a true gent. And when he passed away last month, yeah, it's not good. Sorry. Yeah, so going back, olfactory system. They find your bait, or potentially they will find your bait, by it giving out a signal. Okay, so if that signal is flavour, if that signal is multi-worm is breaking down dead insect parts, so it's like carrion, that's how they find carrion. Yeah, that's fine, Adam, appreciate it. So yeah, going back to it. So why am I using different things? Now, where I am in my fishing is, as I said at the beginning of this feed, I'm very, very, I fell into this trade, and I've been around the houses, haven't I, with all the different things I've done. So when I develop products, I don't develop products, and I know this sounds a little bit, I don't think it's anything bad about it, but I obviously develop it for my own fishing, and I want to develop it. Because as I said earlier, I want to be able to experiment. I want to be able to bring out what I honestly believe is to the best quality, most efficient, performance over profit, yada, 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 yada. And so everything I've done has always been about the edges I've learned over the years. And one of the things I'd like to say, I never realised fish, oh, look at this. Mrs. P's. Bit of cracking, Colin. Should really have that. I only have the odd one, and so you can put an ice cube in it. I'm very honoured ever since she cut my hair. So think about that. Think about how your fish are finding your bait. They can find bait through movement. So like maggots and worms and all these kind of things. So there's lots of things going on how they actually find a bait. And I would always suggest study the biology of a fish. If you study the biology of a fish, you will definitely become more aware and potentially a much better angler. I think it's made me a better angler from a consistency point of view by understanding what a chemoreceptor is, understanding different things that go on, around and affect fish. Don't humanise them. So, like I say, if you paint the leg green, it's still man-made. And what's Rusty saying? What do I fish in my pond at home? Yeah, take them a while to move on a bait, and it always seems the same fish that makes the first move. Very interesting to watch. And I'm with you. I've got a tank in the factory that with carp in it. I love watching them. Love seeing how they move around. I've had a fish farm at one stage where I could really watch them and see that fish were actually very individual fish. We're very, very quick, I think, to go carp or tench or pike or whatever, but they have the same right as we have, as to be very different, very individual. They're not all the same. So going back to the olfactory system, so in essence they're tasting / smelling on the water. So that's how they kind of can be drawn to bait. So when I started realising this, and I had the first time it ever really, really rammed home, and I was talking to Matt about this earlier down on the bank. It was about no, it wasn't. It was the two customers, Ian and down the bottom on Jack's pool. And I was saying about the first time, because I took them down some of these actually, some crave. So we're using my crave, uber duber soaked hook baits. So why am I doing this? So why am I using things like liquids, like one of the new Dendrobina and maggot, natural soaks, the Jungle Booster, pure maggot powder, dry Daphnia. All these things are designed for the fish to locate my bait. So I know I'm using a high quality HMV bait, which in the majority of circumstances. And therefore I still need to draw the fish to find it. So how can I bling that bait out? And I would actually say there's a good argument to fish bling hook baits all the time, especially even if just on one rod. But I'm very much about putting it on 4 rods. I want the fish to find it, and that's the cool thing here. We have the right to be individual. Excuse that. Leave me alone. It's fashion. You're all jealous. That's it. What's he got here? Sorry, mantelpiece effect. If somebody put a picture on your mantelpiece, you would know it's there. To put something in the lake in the living room, then I'm totally with you. Totally with you there, Adam. That's exactly how I tick. If you suddenly had something that's not part of your environment and it creates problems, or we know fish learn by association, I'm all about cutting everything down and putting that emphasis on bait and location and things like that. So going back to, if you honestly just remember this, folks, and I know that's probably come back to front, isn't it, because it's on the thing, but olfactory system, have a look at it, go onto Wikipedia, do a bit of research. Thanks, Adam. And who's that? Jason, it's good to see you here, mate. So I can't stress enough. This is nothing. I'm not here to sell anything. I just tell people what I'm doing. When I started studying fish biology, I definitely learned so much, and it certainly has shaped Pallatrax. You know, when I learned that they were spooking off the man-made, hence the stones. You know, I can't change the fact that I have to have a main line. I can't change the fact that I have to have a rig of some description. I need a hook, I need a bait. But outside of that, do I need all this other stuff? I don't believe I do. I mean, and I catch plenty of fish by kind of ignoring that narrative and focusing on things that perhaps people don't focus on. Why wouldn't we use crystallized maggot powder? Why shouldn't that be, you know, a great additive and an attraction? So do think about how a fish finds your bait. First time I came down to was on Crave. I could smell it on Charlie's. She was on Ben's, and that was just my human senses that sold me Crave, to be honest. Yeah, I mean, that's the quandary though we'll end up with, okay? Because it's a bit like the fly angler or the lure angler, or even the match angler. You think of the match angler, 20 different sorts of baits on the day. It's the one that they find and the one that's the most effective. So again, that's the experiment, and that's why I will. If I'm sitting out there on, if it's my own lakes, yeah, I don't know. I'm just like you folks. I haven't got really any edges when I fish there. I mean, I know the water, I know the features, but I share all that information. So I'm just like everybody else. I'm casting out my system. But will they be in a feed cycle? That's one of the things you need to learn. A lot of people don't realise that carp, you know, they don't have a stomach, they have a digestive tract, so then they can't gorge feed. And so am I going to put a bait out that's A, going to be attractive to them, and B, are they going to mouth? Because obviously they can't eat it because it's on the hair. And that's always the dilemma you'll always have. You'll always have. I don't have a go-to bait anymore because our main baits that we use are Crave, Jungle, and multi-worm. There's more coming. But they're again like the new catfish bait, but they work on the same basis, but they've got different flavors, different levels and things like that to try and really find, you know, use that olfactory. And I was saying again, before I digressed, the first time I really did it, I was fishing, I was practicing for my first ever feature in a magazine called Catch More Carp. Now that's a long time ago. And it was in December, and I was at the top of my lakes in Pallington. I was fishing a gravel patch where I knew fish were close by. I knew because they always moved into these Norfolk reeds in the winter. So it's December. So when I was fishing, my first ever bait I made, actually, I can't make it anymore because I can't get ingredients, was Poms, which is apple and walnut with cloves. So very similar to what I'm doing with Jungle, milk protein base. And nothing. And then I got out my glug hook baits, and the next 2 hours I had 13 carp. Now, all I'd done is I'd taken the same flavour, but I'd boosted that flavour, and those fish moved, and it took them out of a moribund state, or even a state where they didn't even need to feed, and they created the bite. And that's what we're looking to do. How do they find it? If you can bling baits, bling your method mix, you know, this one here, I love putting Daphnia. Daphnia is water flea. It's so prevalent, especially this time of year in our water systems. Why wouldn't we incorporate that? It makes, to me, just makes perfect sense. And to be fair, I always use that in my ground baits method mixes, stick mixes, things like that. Because I'm using something that the fish is used to, is drawn to, and feeds on. What's Adam saying? 2 favourite products from Pallatrax, Nutri-Glug and Jungle Glug. Caught me so many fish I've known as Jungle Boy. Yeah, like I say, I'm totally transparent. You know, it's these kind of products. Like I say, I've got a Jungle Glug here I made earlier. But you know, you're talking really syrupy stuff. You know, so hook baits really, and it stays with the hook baits. And though I'm not, I'm a human, I'm not a fish. For some reason, and I can't tell you why, other than the fact that it's experimentation. So many fish have been caught on this, not just carp, other species as well. I still have dry gamma shrimp. Bit of an update coming to the team members on dry gamma shrimp. Watch this space. Wayne Tester, there you go, man from the old days. One sad thing, Wayne, I don't know if you saw that, A.D. Groves has just passed away, which is a very, very sad time. He was one of our members on my old lakes. Yeah, they really did. And the funny thing with Poms, it was actually like a limey greeny colour. And back in the day, so we're talking long before where we are now, people didn't buy it because they said, it's green. And now look at all the different, you know, colours and things like that are going on. Right. So, olfactory. Has anybody got any questions on the olfactory? Anything that I can help you with please do shout. Jungle is massive. Stays on me too. All you got to do with this, okay? So I will, when I go fishing, if I'm really, really on top of my game, I'll have glugged hook bait sitting in glugs. And when I caught a fish, I'll just move it off. So they're always sitting in there. But when you put them on, the way to do it, and obviously, yes, we sell the pre-drilled ones in the glugs already soaked and things like that. But get a hook bait. I can only talk about Pallatrax hook baits because, you know, they're all HMV, so they're a freezer bait. So unless there's a sugar content in there, so make sure you put a hole in them first for you. Drill a hole through and then stick them in there and they'll last forever and a day. I've had some out there going for 7 years with my samples and things like that. It won't degrade. They just get very hard on very first boost. But all you got to do is it will very quickly emulsify. So I always, when I'm putting it on, I've got a little jug of water next to me or one of my buckets of water, and I just do that and it's gone. That's it. I know it's a bit sticky, but I tell you what, caught me a lot of fish. So who's our live feed winner? Oh, talking the devil, you've won again, Anton. Not been a while since you have won. Is that the right way or is that the right way? I don't know. Anton Warren, you have won, sir. So Anton, well done. Congratulations. Retirement was obviously suiting you well. So please, please, please send me your address to my own personal Simon Pomeroy and I'll get those into you. Quick link and soaking rigs limits the carnage. Like I say, if there's a little bit of stickiness for so much advantage, I'm all up for it. You know, like I say, it's, you know, we're not getting too clinical. We won't use certain things, but like I say, everything I've done, all I've done, and I say it sounds slightly indulgent. I've done it for my own fishing, and then it's offered if other people want to, you know, enjoy the benefits or get involved. Like I say, perhaps I'm just a rubbish salesman, but like I say, it's there for you if you want to use it. It's only done to a set standard, and I use it because it actually helps me to catch more fish. That's what it's been designed to. So there you go. There you go. So any other questions before I depart? Because it is now 8:10, way past my bedtime. I should really go fishing. I've got the buzz at the moment to get the rods out and everything. We are so busy. So again, thanks for your support, obviously. So it's a real struggle, even though I can see the lake out there. I was weighing a fish down there earlier, and you just think, oh, I want to go fishing myself. It's not fair. I will get to it. It will happen. It's really exciting, actually. In October, Dan and Galen are coming over from Canada. They're coming to stay with me for a week and we're going fishing. So that's something to look forward to. So and we will definitely be doing some live feeds and things like that. As mentioned, I've just done the last 3 films with Carpology. They'll be coming out over the next week or so. One's talking about bait and it's like a Q&A thingy that I did with Curly. One is Colin and Sue talking about the team and some of the Pallatraxy things, which is quite a cool interview. None of it's contrived, it's just us chatting. And then the other one, which I'm really actually happy with, I was really worried about it because I don't see, I'm not saying they don't exist, I've yet to see a film that really focuses on fish safety as this one has. And we were really lucky because Curly from Carpology did a fantastic job of editing it. So do think about watching that. That'll come out because I really we did script that. So we made sure we're covering everything we could think about for the fish safety, from landing a fish all the way through to taking it on the bank and putting it back in and all those kind of things. Thoughts on shelf life baits, or do you only stick with freezer baits? It's a really relevant question, Aaron, to me, because I had years ago at my last fishery, I had a major fish kill. And what it did, I started looking at things differently. And I had a big tackle shop on site and one thing and another. But what I did find now, I couldn't get to the bottom of what all of these baits were made of. And I'm not for a minute saying all bait's rubbish, okay? But all bait is not equal, and all bait does not mean it's food. Now, as soon as I know, unfortunately, there is some absolute junk out in the market, and I think it's terrible. You know, all bait companies should be animal feed registered. I see stuff like £4 a kilo, and you just think, well, what can be made of? What can it be? So when it comes to shelf life baits, they will never ever be able to have the ingredient focus that I can do with an HMV, high nutritional value bait, with no synthetics at all. Now, at the end of the day, if we just talk with any fish are like this, but carp particularly, very inquisitive, they'll pick things up. Doesn't mean they'll eat it. If you look at how they feed and how they, take things in, and like a washing machine effect, and spit things out if it's not food and things like that. So never ever think, well, I've caught a fish on it, it was going to eat that, because I've caught loads of fish on a cork ball on the fly rod. So it's not about that. But for me, I think the best bait you can get is one that's been formulated with really high quality ingredients, that's fresh, that's made to a standard that fits in with animal feed regulations, but even more. And obviously my new lakes, I mean, I'm not going to use things in there that potentially are going to risk water quality. And people say to me a lot about fish safety. One of the things that never ever gets covered, and I've unfortunately seen it, and I would never wish what happened to me at my last lakes on anybody, is by polluting the water quality, the whole balance was upset. So I want a bait that is the best it can possibly be. Okay, I could make baits and they'd be really mega expensive by overloading them with, let's just say, greenlit mussel or something like that. Wouldn't make it any better a bait. But what I don't want to use is bulking agents, which are no good for fish. And also, we've got to think about the invertebrate life, because if the fish feed, if there's a feeding cycle and the fish aren't feeding at that particular time, you've got bait in there. You want the insect life to feed on it, and there's thousands of different formats of insect life and life forms in a watercourse, so you want something like that. Now the trouble is, a lot of baits out there, they use a product called monopropylene glycol, and it's a mold inhibitor. It's human grade. I don't know if you've ever eaten Chinese chicken. Sometimes they cook. Chinese use it a lot to cook in. It's a kind of a preservative, and you'll get chicken, and when it's quite slimy, that's because it's been cooked in a lot of MPG. MPG is used in as a carrier for lots of things. It is what it is. Just because it's human grade does not mean it's good for fish. And the problem is, while using it, they're using it to create a binder and also to preserve. Okay, and if you'll see baits, some of the baits I've seen, they're very shiny. And what actually happens, the MPG sits on the outside of the bait. So no, that's something different. That one, Colin, monopropylene glycol. Have a look at that one. And what happens is, so let's just take a bait here, one of my chunks. Okay, so you've got the bait, and you'll see it's got this, what you won't see it with my baits, it's like a dull finish, it's as it is kind of thing. But these baits are very, very shiny, and what happens is it sits out on the outside. Air cannot get through, so therefore mold cannot create. That's the point of it. So it looks apart, smells apart, and things like that. But the worst thing for me as a fishery owner, putting the angling side of it, because it will never be as good because it's full of synthetics, from my purest way of looking at it. But what happens? They won't break down. If you get these baits and you put them in a glass of water, and see these start to break down. The water emulsifies. They're designed to do that. I want them to break down. See you later, Rusty. Have a good meal. But if they can't break down and they're not food, they sit, and what they do ultimately is rot, and that's a big problem out there. And I talk to fisheries about this, frequently. So you've got to be careful if it's not food, and therefore fish might pick it up out of curiosity, but they won't eat it, because once they realise it's not food, they don't eat it. That's just nature. But also, nothing else in the lake can eat it. So it just sits there, nothing eats it, and breaks down. And you'll see lots of people in the industry over the years who have dropped lakes, and they've found it, and it's like hundreds of thousands. And it's these baits, because they don't know food content, they just sit there and they basically rot. And that is a severe problem for fishery owners. And so all I would say, I know I've gone on a bit, Aaron, but it's obviously a big passion of mine because of the fish kill, and really that actually is, like I said in this film with Carpology, I think I'm probably the only company that started off the back of fish dying. because that's really, I wouldn't be here now if I didn't have that problem. It wouldn't have set me on where I am, and why I'm very environmentally aware about water quality and what we should be doing as anglers is the right thing. There's all this kind of push in different areas, the map police and all these people coming out. What about actually looking after the environment they're swimming around in? Is that not the most important thing? Because if we do that, we'll only get better results, healthier fish, and it's kind of a win-win. Poor bait, poor results, disaster for the environment. But like I say, there's plenty of baits out there that are fine. I just look at myself, I'm making a biomass food source. So that's made as a food source for everything that within my water course, or the vast majority of things in my water course. You put it on a hair, you're going to catch lots of fish as well. It's that simple, or is it that complicated? I don't know. But yeah. So where's that something? I've just missed that. Oh, it's just oh, Colin's saying, I'm speaking to Stan. This is a team, one of our team things. I'm speaking to Stan tomorrow, Colin, about our Y trip. Yeah, watch your space. I'll be on the team page talk after I've spoken to Stan to see where we go. I tell you what, it's fishing its head off. Absolutely fishing its head off. I'm on Stan's private page and I see all the fish coming out of the Y, and there's they're having filling their boots because there's been quite a lot of water up there. It's not like when we went. So watch this space, Colin. I'm speaking to him tomorrow. So anyway, folks, look at it. Whiz past as always. I do enjoy. Obviously I'm always up for a chat. Thanks for your questions. Thanks for your time. Thanks for your support. Anton, well done, sir. Congratulations. And I will be back on the team page for my live feed next week, and then back here the following week, and so on and so forth. So if anybody's got any questions about anything I said tonight or anything else, just PM me, give me a call at the office, 01409 240042. More than happy to speak to people. I know because people want to speak about bait, or they might want to speak about gamma or anything else. So yeah, so stay safe, folks. Catch lots. Appreciate your time, and yeah, happy days. Look after yourselves. And I say, any questions, just always reach out for me. All right. I can only draw you to my conclusions. I'm never going to put any pressure on that. I just fish the way I fish because I think it's really sensible. Stay safe. And just before I go, I hope you like that. All the best. Stay safe.